Hello and welcome to another Wednesday drawing session with me, Frank Cho. Today, I was supposed to draw Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing is one of my favorite characters in the DC universe. I've been a huge Bernie Wrightson fan since day one, but I've drawn so many Swamp Things that I didn't want to draw another Swamp Thing. So I decided to change it up a bit and draw Man Thing, which is a Marvel's version of Swamp Thing. Now, this image of Man Thing just coming out of this foggy swamp with a gator in his hand just popped in my mind. And I decided to just run with it. And so I've been a huge horror fan since I was a kid. Now, when I say horror, I don't mean like people shooting people and people murdering people. That doesn't really appeal to me. When I say horror, I mean like monsters. I'm a big monster fan. So I grew up reading, Werewolf, King Kong, Godzilla, and and all that kind of stuff. Read and watched those movies. So that's my jam. Just monsters in general. And Man Thing is when Man Thing definitely is in that wheelhouse. Now, here's the funny part. I know a lot about Swamp Thing. Again, I was a huge Bernie Wrightson Swamp Thing fan, and when I read comics, when I just absolutely devoured comics in the 1980, I grew up collecting comics from 1983 to 1990. And so during that time, they had a reprint of Bernie Wrightson's Swamp Thing, so I just like absolutely just devoured it. Now, Man Thing, they didn't. I don't recall them having too many reprints of Man Thing, and and this is the '80s, so there weren't any like specialty comic shops. So if you missed it at the drugstore or grocery store when the comics came out, when you missed it, you missed it. I mean, you couldn't get the back issues, and also the comic conventions were not a big thing. I mean, there were hardly any comic conventions except for San Diego Comic Con and stuff like that. So anyway, so drawing Man Thing is super easy to me because you don't have to rely too much on being accurate. No, you have to be accurate to a certain degree, but you don't have to make it look like a man, like a real man. So you can, when drawing monsters, you can just distort figures, elongate figures. It's fun. Just stretch it and crunch it and all that stuff with the figures to give it that monstrous shape. As you saw earlier, I had tough time drawing a hand, so I actually posed myself to to draw that hand. So that's what I do. A lot of people don't know this, or actually a lot of artists do this in general. We would pose ourselves to for reference. When there's certain anatomy that we're not sure of, we would pose ourselves and use that as reference. Again, going back to Man Thing, I love Man Thing because it was just such a goofy name. I guess the name really caught my attention. So the Man Thing, they had a comic called Giant Size Man Thing, which is absolutely hilarious. I don't know how they got away with it, but I guess as a kid you didn't know any better. But Giant Size Man Thing is so it's so funny. But that was back then when people had a sense of humor, and so that was really great. The title actually caught my attention more than anything else when I first heard about Man Thing. Now, so Man Thing was created by who was it created by? It was created by Conway and Gray Morrow, if I remember correctly. And Gray Morrow, who is a highly underrated artist, did a fantastic job of designing the character because he has a very distinct look. It had that kind of like a root that encase his face with this giant mutated like a tuber, like almost like a big massive droopy carrot for his nose, and and Man Thing is one of the most iconic horror creature that I've ever seen. I mean, looks wise, it has the most iconic look in the comic universe. Just with few lines, just drawing that big that face. I mean, you can't. As soon as you see that face, it's Man Thing. I mean, you can't. There's no other creature like it. And Gray Morrow did an absolutely fantastic job of designing this creature. I mean, it's the more I draw it, the more I love it. So in the drawing, the the secret to drawing monster is to give it the right amount of anatomy, the realism, so that people can relate to it. So like if you draw this a creature that is just so crazy and just people can't relate what they're looking at. Those are always kind of I feel a little bit of a failure in the designer. So when you're designing monster, you want to give it that enough human anatomy to give it that monstrous look, so that people can relate and kind of understand what they're seeing. So Man Thing definitely fits that bill. So I decided to give it just the right amount of human anatomy and proportion, just making this hulking figure. It's almost like has a bit of a Sasquatch feel to it, just this massive musculature, and kind of just a stooping forward, almost like an apish look about it when it's stand and move. And so the big secret about Man Thing is you have to add the vegetation, just the plants and the moss and the mushrooms and the flowers that grows on his back. That's all part of making Man Thing unique and fun to draw. And so here I am, and also the secret to drawing monsters to make sure you really need to focus on the shadows and shade it. And so give it that, you don't want just an outline, you just want to give it that light and shadow, which give it a more of a volume and that 3D look about it. And so my original thought is to have Man Thing just walk out of this foggy swamp, holding an alligator in his hand, and so I thought that was just like that image just popped in my mind. So this is more one of my more successful sketches that I've done recently. So and I love drawing alligator. So there I am. I actually didn't like the hand. I thought the hand was just too big and just elongated, and I didn't like how the fingers looked the way it grasped. So so again, I'm going back to what I said earlier in earlier video. If it looks wrong, it's wrong. If it looks right, it's right. So don't be afraid to erase it. That's what the penciling, sketching stage is you can always erase it and do things over. So I love drawing alligators and turtles because I'm a huge dinosaur fan, and to me they're like the last living dinosaur or unchanged living dinosaurs on this planet, and I just love drawing that. And so here I am fixing the hand, just made it more compact, not too elongated and all that, and just adding the shadows to the alligator and the thing. And so I mean, it's just so I was just having absolute fun with it, and just adding all so that's the key, just adding all that shadow when you're drawing monsters, just giving that monsters and darkness is always they go hand in hand. And drawing some here I am drawing the weed and the cattails and all that. So there you have it, Man Thing.